Tuesday, the 14th of August, 2007. Councilwoman Bell is present, Vice Mayor Losner, Councilwoman Wallman, Councilwoman Garner, and Councilman Porter. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes of July 24, 2007, moved by Councilwoman Bell? Is there a second? Second by Councilman Porter. Any questions on the minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2A under tab, no, there's no tab, but Mr. Porter, American Traffic Solutions, red light traffic cameras presentation.
I think we have a presentation there that's similar to what we had with the first applicant or request. So I guess we'll have to move down to the ground floor.
Are you class started yet?
Saturday.
Okay. No fairness.
No.
Hey, I want to watch Big Brother, don't you?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Vice Mayor, Ms. Vice Mayor, and council members. It's a pleasure to be back in this chamber again. A lot of fond memories for me personally. My name is Larry Hawkins. I'm the Florida Director for American Traffic Solutions. Just real briefly, we have been here before, about a year and a half ago actually, Mr. Manager. It was about a year and a half ago or so. The president of the company and I came down and made a presentation to the manager regarding red light traffic light program. Since then, we are in the process of sponsoring legislation. Representative Reagan in the House and Senator Baker in the Senate. There was an Attorney General's opinion that essentially said that the police officer had to view it so it couldn't be a criminal violation. It also said that local cities could adopt their own ordinances, and this is being done around the state before we believe the legislation is being passed. We have a number of cities throughout the state of Florida. We have a number of cities here in Dade County, and without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our development person, Greg Parks from Kansas City. Greg is the one who's going to be making the presentation, and the manager's already seen this. We do have some updates for you, though, Mr. Manager, so I think you might like to watch it. Greg?
Thanks, Larry. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As some of you have seen this, please stop me if there's any questions that they'd like me to go over.
Use the microphone.
Okay, I guess I'll have to do it this way. Is that good? Well, again, thank you for having us, and again, please stop me if there's anything you'd like me to go over. Again, my name is Greg Parks. I'm in charge of business development for Florida. The key thing on this solution is that it is entirely violator funded, entirely self-funded. There's no contractually guaranteed not to be a penny out-of-pocket expense for the city for training, maintenance, implementation, ongoing expenses. So there's a zero budget item for this project. A little bit about why ATS briefly. We're the only U.S.-based company in this market. It's the easiest to use. We're the only inlet strategic partner, and what Inlets is a national license plate database, and that's very important for South Florida. That I'll get to this a little later in the presentation, but allows us to access registered owner information on all 50 states plus Canada. Very important with tourism, rental cars, etc. It's the easiest to use, least intrusive on your streetscape, and we have the best track record. No history of litigation, class action lawsuits, no contracts terminated. We've replaced more vendors than any other company. We'll talk about some unique benefits for the police department as I move through this in addition to the red light benefits. We operate more large programs than the other vendor, and we have very key Florida experience compliance with FDOT, which is going to be very important for this project. We were fortunate recently, June 12th, Pembroke Pines selected ATS to operate the largest to date red light traffic camera program in the state. We were pleased that they noted in their resolution, a number of things I'll hit on today are inlets, partnership, no litigation, customer service, and some of the functionality we offer. Here's the reasons why you really want to do this. If you watch this pedestrian here, this is the result of a red light violation. And we point that out. Fortunately, that gentleman was not fatally injured, believe it or not, or we wouldn't show it. But we point that out that there's all kinds of reasons we'll talk about, but when you get right down to it, it's protection of the citizens that is the major reason for this program. We operate the largest and longest running red light camera program in the country. It's a proven technology, proven program. New York City's been using our cameras since 1994. It's had amazing results, 73% reduction in violations, 41% reduction in collisions, most importantly, 35% reduction in fatalities, which is a large number in a municipality the size of New York. Annually, this program generates over 330,000 citations, which is the most important benefit. It also does bring in about $28 million annually to the city. We've experienced similar results in Philadelphia. Just over the first 15 months of the program, average violations at red lights dropped from 31 to under 9, a 72% reduction. Very dramatic results. Here's a listing of our customers from around the country. As I mentioned, we have a lot of experience in operating very large, complex programs. New York, Philadelphia, D.C., St. Louis, Houston, Seattle, Phoenix. Most importantly, the three largest in Florida, Apopka, Pembroke Pines. Orange County is currently using our cameras to document violations, and we'll be upgrading that system. We have a tremendous problem in Central Florida as well as in South Florida. Again, I mentioned Seattle, Houston, some of our larger customers. We point this out that in their procurement, of all technology they procured, we're the only vendor ever to score a perfect score in reference and technology. I know it's important to the council, to the mayor, to the city manager, to the police department, and to the citizens here. The public is very much behind this technology. Wherever you go in the country, it's very common. People are tired of the problems and the dangers the red light runners bring. These are studies done by the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety. Around the country, it averages 79%. A study was done in the Fort Lauderdale area. 82% of the citizens are in favor of red light cameras. One thing that ATS will do, we're fortunate enough the city elects to partner with us to bring this program to the city, is we'll work with the city to get the word out to the citizens why you're doing this, the benefits it's going to bring. Here's some examples of things we've done around the country.
Do me a favor and just remember those for the next time. Repeat them. Low of 78 tonight, chance of rain tomorrow with high of 97. And your report is brought to you by the City of Houston. Hey, the City of Houston is committed to traffic safety. Red light cameras are being installed to reduce crashes caused by running red lights. Please stop on red to help keep the community and kids safe. It's the focus on safety. I'm Laura Reynolds, the Sports Radio.
So those are some examples of a number of radio PSAs we conducted in Houston prior to the cameras going live to get the word out to the citizens why the city was doing this. Here's an example of some press television coverage we did in St. Louis.
This video news were obtained from a red light.
This is actually outside a high school in St. Louis.
This is an accident waiting to happen. This is News 4, where there's always something extra. The speeder is praising the video showing just how bad the as the video that reports more communities are getting ready to start using those controversial cameras.
Watch as the light changes outside Arnold's Rockport Heights School. One car speeds through the red. Keep watching. As the seconds tick off, another runs the red. Incredible. About 11 seconds into the red.
This is in front of a high school.
The car exiting the school, which has the green light.
The scary thing is
So a couple of examples of things we've done around the country, and we'll work with the city to get the word out to your citizens through print, press, radio while you're doing this and the benefits it'll bring. So a little bit about us, why you're doing it, how we get the program started, a real brief overview of the technology. It's very small. It's not going to have a big impact on the city's streetscape. These are a couple of examples of real installations in New York City. The one on the left is using existing city street lamp, and the one on the right is using ATS infrastructure. But that's the entire system. There's no hardware or software loaded in city property. We use an ultra-high resolution camera, 12.4 megapixel. I'll talk about why that's important. And briefly, this is an example of what the shot will look like that both the police department will review and the citizen will be able to see online. There's no yellow in this. The car has to be 100% in the red for it to be a violation. So these are very serious, egregious runners. This is what we call the A shot, or the before picture. We actually have a picture of the violator behind the stop bar with the light clearly red. The light had been red for a quarter of a second. It was doing 23 miles per hour, and the amber phase had been in effect for 3.6 seconds. So we captured the before picture. Here's the B shot, the after picture, to document the prima facie case. Physical picture of the violator through the intersection, light still red, speed, and the light had been red for 1.35 seconds now. Here's an example of some shots in Seattle. We have a lot of mounting flexibility. If you want to shoot at bus stops, etc., over large trucks. Very effective in right turns on red, left turns, etc. One problem that our longest and largest customer, New York, came to us with is multiple simultaneous runners, platooning. You probably all see it on the street. I'm running the light, the person next to me and the person next to them is going to run the light at the same time. We developed a solution that's able to capture all of those, and the key is you're going to be able to send 3 behavior modifying citations to these drivers. This is real footage out of our New York system, 3 tickets captured in a second and a half, 6 pictures. There's the first car, the A shot, the B shot, the before shot of the cab, the after shot of the cab, the before the Grand Prix, and the after, all within a second and a half. Some other benefits I talked about earlier that the police department will derive at no charge, in addition to the public safety benefits of the red light cameras. From the squad cars, if they're mobile equipped, or from anywhere in the station, with a proper password, the police department can monitor live what is going on at the city's intersections. Except for incident command, traffic control, something's going on at the light. This is what they'll see. Also, our system is the only one that comes with audio. This is very important in liability protection for the city. If there's a city vehicle in a crash, siren was on, you'll have that liability protection. Here's an example of something taken on a green with audio. So a couple of things there. That would have been a city vehicle and the siren was on. You could document it. Also, the police department would spend months investigating, or a substantial amount of time investigating an accident on green. He said, she said, a lot of manpower involved in it. This could be solved simply by viewing the video. Another thing, they will also have access to historical recording. We're going to film at the intersection for 45 to 60 days and store that anytime the police want to use it for police review investigations. One of our largest customers, Houston, is getting ready to solve a murder at an intersection where there was a shooting. They were able to go back and view that footage independent of a red light violation. So again, these are all very high-tech things that the police department will benefit from at no cost, in addition to the red light camera benefits. So a little bit about us, how we get it going, the technology. Lastly, how we process the violations. It's available 24/7. Again, as I mentioned, there's no hardware or software on the city property. It's all done through the internet. And here's a diagram of how it works. We'll take the picture out in the field. We'll crop the license plate out of the original image. We'll enter the plate. And as I mentioned, we're an inlet strategic partner. So real time, that plate information will go out to all 50 states and Canada, bring back the registered owner. Our team will do a review on it to make sure it meets the city's business rules. Once we do that, the police department or code enforcement will log on through the internet once a day, and these take about 15 seconds of violation. And they will all going to see this. The important thing to remember here, it's not a private vendor to determine if this is a citation. It's up to the police department or the city to give the final say to what is. They'll log on, they'll see the A shot, as we mentioned earlier, the B shot, the license plate shot. Then they actually can click on and see the video of the car running the red light. So obviously that's a citation. Oh, please. No, it's
They have to view each on there to pop up suspicious, what the computer would say would be suspicious.
We only take pictures of the red light violations. So the car goes through on green, we're not going to take its picture. So each day we'll QA it, and we will send the police department or city staff a batch of 100, 200, whatever the number would be, just of the red light violations. Then they'll go through about 15 seconds each to verify it meets the police department's or city standards for a violation. Welcome. Once it's determined by the city this is a violation, we will work with the city to design a citation that meets your needs, what logo you want on it, how you want it to look. We'll print at our expense a citation, print the A shot, the B shot, and the license plate shot in color, give a notice number and a PIN number, mail this at our expense to the violator with instructions to go to this website, violationinfo.com. When they receive their citation, log on the internet, they will go to a City of Homestead website that's set up. This is Houston's. They'll be able to log on, see their A shot behind the line, their B shot of them through the line, their license plate. They'll click and see the video of them running the red light, and that's very important. It achieves extremely high compliance. They can click on here, get additional information. We'll work with you to determine what you want on here. Why is the city doing the program? What benefits are we obtaining? Whatever you'd like on there.
Languages.
We can do multiple languages, Spanish, English, work with you on that. The violator from this screen can electronically pay with Visa, MasterCard, electronic check. Funds will come in, they'll be swept to the city's bank account, so you're in control of it. Then we'll invoice you per the terms of the agreement. We'll work with the city to design all kinds of website content. A number of cities will put on their website where the cameras are. It's up to you. Whatever you want on there, we'll work with you to develop. A number of standard reports are available to the city. Top violator report, who's running the lights in your city. Issuance rate report, how well are we doing. Number of standard reports. Also, another benefit that's available to the police department at no charges program will provide a number of traffic statistics report, traffic count by day, by lane, by hour, by week, things that are beneficial in determining speed limits, police personnel deployment, etc. Again, kind of a recap of us. We have why us. Key Ford experience, the easiest to use. We're the only inlet strategic partner, the best functionality, the 24/7 recording, the audio, the best track record, and again, the only American company in this business. So I like to keep it brief for the council meetings and no death by PowerPoint, but are there any questions I can answer?
Process of running the red light runner, if you spot a plate that has an expired tag, can you issue a citation for that from the license?
The police department could. It would be up to them on what they wanted to use the information for. But yeah, a number of people are exploring that.
How do you identify who's driving? Who do you give the ticket to?
The registered owner of the vehicle. It's not because it doesn't go against your driving record.
And that's legal?
Yes.
How about the parking ticket?
Parking ticket is a non-moving violation.
As is this.
So is this.
No points now.
We don't want the public to know that. You just don't.
I'm sorry, ma'am. The person doesn't pay. There's a number of things you can do. You can contract with ATS to do collections. You can use a private firm that you use now. You would put something in your ordinance as a penalty for non-payment. Houston, I want to send them to the credit bureau to to Experian, et cetera. A number of cities work with taking away municipal services. It would be addressed in your ordinance.
Can we go up front? Do you have no questions on the line?
The gentleman asked, while you're going up there, the gentleman asked, what if they don't pay? Well, I believe it's Aventura, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but in Aventura ordinance, the first violation is $125, and the second violation is $250. So you can escalate. No problem. I was just saying, the gentleman said, what happens if they don't pay? Besides that, if they run it again, the fine can escalate depending if you want to do that. Aventura, for example, is doing $125 on the first violation. Second violation of a red light runner is $250. And by the way, you think that's a lot. In California, first violation, $400.
Mayor, I have a question.
Ms. Bill?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think that we need to move it forward as far as we already have an ordinance. We already have an ordinance in place. We've been working on this for quite some time. I've been to Tallahassee lobbying on behalf of this and in the committee, and it went very well. So I think it's time to move forward, but it's very clear to me, and I have questions for your company as well, that the logical thing to do is to move it forward and put it out for bid. Because I don't know that we can just pick one company right off the bat without putting it out for RFP. So that's probably the next step that we're going to have to do is put out for RFP. But my question for you is your equipment able to stand alone without having to tap into the poles up along the Dade County?
Yes.
You have the standalone equipment. Wonderful. Then that's perfectly on even keel with the other company that we had looked at so far. Very good.
If I could, Councilwoman, you can put it out for bid, and a few cities have. A lot of cities are going and piggybacking on other cities. We met with a city today who's going to be piggybacking on Apopka. Another city is going to be piggybacking on, in Dade County, is going to be piggybacking on Miami Gardens. And we know others that are going to piggyback on Pembroke Pines that are in Broward. So you can, if you wish, go out for an RFP, and we love to compete. We won 67 or 70% of the RFPs we've competed for around the country, so we don't have a problem with that. Certainly don't have a problem with the people that have been down here showing you their systems. But there is another way if you wanted to get it up sooner and or make it more readily available.
Well, there's nothing I like better than making this sooner, but this council made a policy some time ago when we were talking about Park of Commerce and other bids. This council made a public policy that they were going to send these kind of items out to bid. So unless they've changed the policy, that's kind of what they had decided, that any time you had where you could have competitors or competing interests, because I think this company sounds wonderful. In fact, I've seen your presentation at League of Cities event. I've seen your presentation. I believe I've spoken with you directly, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful, and I think it's a no-brainer. It's something I've been working towards for 2 years now. I think we have to move forward. It saves lives. We have to move forward with saving lives. There's nothing I'd like to move better, quicker, sooner rather than later. Absolutely. I just don't know how we can go forward without an RFP. So if there's any other wisdom from the council.
I have a question. I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yes, go right ahead.
If it's not going to cost the city anything, is that me? If it's not going to cost the city, who am I supposed to be looking at? Could I read it?
The attorney, probably.
Or the attorney. If it's not going to
answer this question.
Okay, you know what I'm going to ask before I ask it. But if it's not going to cost the city anything, why does it have to go out on an RFP? Or does it have to? I mean, I don't know.
Well, that will be your choice. As they said, either we could piggyback or RFP. That's a policy that the...
What's the definition of piggyback? What do you mean?
Well, that's another governmental entity has gone through a bidding process and chosen a certain vendor to represent them. Then the city can, what they call piggyback, off of that using their bid procedures that they did a competitive bid, and use that as their selection.
We do that for vehicles a lot, right?
We do quite a few of those.
The difference, Councilwoman, if I may, Councilwoman, I think the difference between, this is a service agreement as opposed to to the type of thing that wouldn't be necessary to go out for with an RFP. The city attorney, Coral Gables, as a matter of fact, this morning said we don't have to do RFPs for something like this because it's a service agreement, and as Councilwoman points out, this is something that you're not expending money on. It's money that's coming to you.
Well, yes, that's true.
But that's for your attorney to decide, not me.
Well, here's the problem. We've already interviewed one other company. We're looking at two, and I see two wonderful companies. I need to see something that I can compare side by side. And I mean, at the time, everybody sounds wonderful, and so I think we need to have some type of a bit of a breather. We can have kind of like a sheet that we can compare the different companies that are out there, take a look at that, and evaluate that, and bring back a recommendation to the council. But I think that it's not fair just to go, I think we need to go forth. Definitely we want to go forth with a company, absolutely, and I think we need to move forward tonight that we go forth with this. I mean, this is something been pushing for 2 years, so of course I want to move it forward. In fact, I'd love to move it forward, but I don't think we're ready to choose a company tonight. I don't think that would be wise.
Let me suggest this, Councilwoman Bell, that, because as you said, we have looked at this thing for a while, and I think as a consensus here, we need to move forward.
Yes, absolutely.
What I would suggest is that, based on the recommendation of the police department, let them take a look at the ones that we, the one that was presented a couple of weeks ago, and this one, and I think between the chief's office and the manager's office, probably at the next council meeting, come back with a recommendation.
Well, that's fine. That's fine, but Mayor,
so let's get it out.
Let's do that, but indulge me in this. As the councilwoman who fought for this and brought it here and fought for the ordinance and went to Tallahassee to fight for this, I'd like to sit in on those discussions with the chief. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mayor,
thank you.
Mr. Porter, everything that's being said is exactly what just got done. You ask it to go through the committee. The committee consists of the chief. Captain of Code Enforcement had not been made aware of the previous discussions when it came to the other company that we got a chance to look at. This is a recommendation that came from the Captain of Code Enforcement. After the last meeting, and you said, go take a look at this, I took it to the chief and the police department, and Captain Chong immediately got on the phone and started searching out vendors that do this type of service. This is the one that he brought back. This is not anything that I brought back. Then you guys came down and did a presentation to the chief, and the manager was there. And again, this is basically what the police department had the better feeling of, with the ability to use the fact that it was pretty much turnkey. It wasn't a lot of extra effort that the police department had to participate in. They could even do the collection process. We wouldn't have to have a collections issue involved or another collection company involved. The ability to use some of the employees that end up being on light duty, they would train the officers on an ongoing basis that if we have officers that are on light duty and not be able to be on the street, we could put them in the role of reviewing these violations, so we would still get service from those employees even though they happen to be on light duty. So this is one of those things that I don't know how you can compare apples to apples, because all the companies are different. We can go through the RFP process. It will slow the whole thing down. This is definitely what the police department brought back when they were requested to take a look at the first presenter and give us at least something else to look at. This is what came from the police department. We can go a lot longer and drawn out with this if we so choose. I think it's very difficult to compare, because this is a fairly new system of being able to deal with people who violate running red lights. So it's really not even sure the legality is still being challenged to some degree. So, I mean, the process is the process. I'm not suggesting, if you want to look at other companies, this recommendation that's here on your desk tonight and this presentation comes from the police department and their review of potential providers of that type of service for us to look at this red light running. That was what I thought we should have a comparison. We can go for more and do more comparisons. This, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, this is basically a recommendation from Captain Chong and his research that he did, correct? Okay. That's all.
Mayor? Well, I accept that, but there was nothing here in front of me that said that this was a recommendation from the police department. We have no paperwork on that, so I just thought it was one more presentation, because I have nothing on, there's nothing here that says that, so that's why I was definitely saying that we should put out to RP, and it's been our policy to put everything out to bid, so that was the natural kind of, next step in this. But I figured you guys were good, because I got an email, I guess, about 2 months or so ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, from our lobbyist in Tallahassee, Bob Levy, recommending you guys. So I figured I'd be hearing from you. So this is interesting. But if that's the recommendation from the police department, and they think this is the best one to go with, then I'm okay with that. And I kind of had a feeling it would go this way anyway, so I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Mayor, I forgot one.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Mr. Porter?
Correct me, there was a slight modification in the ordinance that you guys wanted to take a look at, because was that correct? The ordinance that we originally prepared, you guys thought there should be a slight modification of that?
We recommended a slight modification. Yes.
Okay. So they looked at the original ordinance that was drafted, and it's their opinion based on their expertise.
It was very minor. It was just a technical review of equipment-wise, not a substantive.
Okay, but we want to get it right the first time. So if we do it, whatever that modification is, we run it by our attorneys and the manager and make sure that that's appropriate at some point in time when we...
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor, then Ms. Roman.
Quite frankly, I'm grappling with how we got to this point tonight. We approved, I believe, the concept of having a program to capture red light runners, first and foremost as a safety issue, and secondarily as a stream of income. And a presentation was made by one of, at least 2 vendors in the state of Florida, and maybe there are others. And it languished, and the mayor asked the Public Safety Committee and the police department to take a look at it, and I was under the impression that a critique was going to come back as to the prior proposer and look at whether or not there are other providers. And I'm having trouble making that connection between my understanding of what I thought was going to happen, where we're now standing on the precipice of approving this vendor with no written recommendation or analysis in front of us, or as to whether, who else was looked at and why this particular vendor is superior to the prior vendor or any other vendor. And yeah, it sounds all nice and fuzzy and warm to say it doesn't cost us anything, but let's make no mistake. This vendor, like any architect, any attorney, any appraiser that we hire for a service agreement, has an ongoing stream of income. I want to see a written analysis of software, of backup, of cameras, of financial arrangements. What do the other vendors get versus what this vendor is asking for? I'm apparently not on our city lobbyist preferred email list, and I understand why. And I want to ask, is our city lobbyist or any former member of this city council part of the organization? Are they receiving any compensation? Do they expect any compensation if this contract is awarded on this railroad basis tonight? Who's involved? That's just clear that we don't have.
Mr. Vice Mayor, there's no, if we were lucky enough through whatever process to be selected by the city of Homestead to run the red light camera program, there is, to my knowledge, and I think I go back almost maybe as far as you do, as far as the former city council members who were council members in Homestead, would not receive any compensation for that. And my understanding is your city lobbyist, one of your city lobbyists is Bob Levy, that the Commissioner said.
Yes, and we're in communication because I was up lobbying for it, and it's been my issue.
Bob Levy will receive no compensation as a result of us getting this or us not getting this.
Does that represent your company?
He is one of the people that is representing the red light industry in trying to get the law changed so that it will be a criminal violation as opposed to a code violation. There are a lot of cities in Dade County, Broward County, and in the state of Florida that are trying to get under the wire. What do I mean by under the wire? If you decide to do this with us or anyone else, and then you will control the revenue. We don't control it, as Greg said. It gets swept into your account. You control the revenue and will get a bigger chunk as opposed to the state. Reaching way deep down in there, and that's one of the reasons why I think it would be wise for the city to pick someone. And again, I'm very comfortable. I don't want to use the chief's words or the captain's words when we made this presentation, but I think it's safe to say that your police department administration is very comfortable with our company versus the other company who is in the field at this time. And there are only two at this time. There were two. I'm sorry?
Well, that was my next question. We know of two vendors. Are there others?
There are only two at this point in the state of Florida that are going after. We have competed against that other company and have won every time. In my belief, we'll probably win every one. And that's just the way it is.
Just understand that this kind of came out of the blue. We don't really have, as we normally do in these kinds of situations, we have no analysis or formal recommendation before us.
I understand, and I'll take it upon myself to get individually or collectively through the manager the financials on our company, our credit rating, anything that you would like to see along that, and I think you will be.
Well, I'd like to know what tipped the balance, whether it was software, backup, quality of cameras, customer service. What tipped? Just like in a bid proceeding, what tipped the balance?
Well, the words of your staff were, it was like looking at apples and oranges.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Let me make a comment, Ms. Wellington. This is a committee of the whole, and I do think we have ample time to do that comparison. And I think at the next council meeting, Councilman Bell, we could have that comparison and that analysis done for final approval at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
When I looked at it, and I have not read this thing completely, but just looking at the number of cities, not only in Florida but throughout the country, that have embraced your company versus the other, I think was significant to me. That maybe the technology is better, the service is better, I don't know, but it apparently you got the market here. But I agree that and at the final vote, I do think we need to probably, Mr. Manager, have an analysis of these two companies, as you said, like apples and orange, let's put it on paper.
That's right.
And we don't need to take any action, we'll just...
No, this is, I think the quicker we make a decision and move it forward, I think this is what everybody wants, so let's make it happen.
Just, Mr. Mayor, if I might, if anyone has any questions, Mr. Losner has indicated on our company financials, we've noted that. If anyone has any questions about anything that you want about this industry, about our company, if you could funnel those to the manager's office, we would be glad to get them and distribute them and make sure everyone gets a copy of everything we send. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was ready to go ahead and move forward if everybody was happy with the company, and especially if the police department, if they had researched the other three and they felt that this was the best. You are I think it's in your package that I just glanced at, but aren't you the only company that records sound?
Yes, ma'am. There are probably 4 or 5 things that we're the only company that does that. Both the police department and the municipality or the state.
And I would be happy to articulate those, or we're very comfortable with your other process. Whatever you determine, we'll certainly work with you.
Well, I'm very happy.
Well, I'm going to ask that it be placed on the agenda at the next council meeting so we can finalize this. But in the meantime, let's get the analysis as part of that recommendation. I'm going to support the police department recommendation. So.
Because I saw on Dateline or something one night I was watching, and I don't remember what city it was, but it was just like that, where they recorded the sound, and that sound helped them solve, a crime and vehicular homicide, and it was just unbelievable what that sound. I don't even remember what city it was in, but
it's a great aid in liability protection for the city too if an emergency vehicle is in an accident.
Yes, I would think so. Thank you.
I would also volunteer, Greg, in my time that if any one of the council members, you got the short version, the police department got the police department and the other people we met with got the long version. We did that in the interest of time and of your time. If any one of you would like the longer version, please let us know. We'll be glad to come see you individually and let you see the longer version for those of you who haven't seen it, as well as answer any questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
And I want to make it clear that I think your company is fantastic, and this has nothing to do with your company. No. But I also, like Mr. Lausner, am used to a process and a procedure.
No, we understand.
Usually when there's a recommendation, I have something in documentation that gives me some type of side-by-side comparison. Why is it apples compared to oranges? What is the difference between your company and Company A and Company B? What's the financial difference between Company A and Company B? What is your suggestion? Take a look and compare it with the ordinance. There was so much that wasn't here because we've just been discussing, up until now, we've just been discussing the issue of the red light running and the cameras. It's been an issue discussion, and we brought the company in here just to show everybody what it can do without necessarily saying this is the company we want to use. That was not what that was about. And so I'm really glad to see another presentation, and I have seen your presentation, so it's really good. I'm glad to get both presentations. I just think that we don't want to be accused as a city of not taking a good look at both companies, and we'll probably come back to the very same conclusion, but I think it would behoove us to do that. So thank you very much.
We understand, and we're very comfortable with whatever direction you want to take.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Bell. Mr. Porter, you mentioned about the slight amendment to the ordinance. Will that be coming forth along with the...
I would like to.
Will we have that available too for the meeting?
Mr. Mayor, we'll get that to your city manager and city attorney prior to the next meeting.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for your time.
Item 2C, we have a second lease amendment for adult daycare, tab 2.
Yes, Mayor and Council, it's staff's recommendation that, of course, you see this as signed because we sent it to the county to have signed and brought it back, and now bringing it before you, but to go ahead and authorize the third extension for the adult daycare center on Southwest.
So move, Mayor.
Moved by Councilwoman Garner, second by Councilwoman Wallman. Any question on the agreement?
No, sir.
If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have 2D, the Children Trust exemptions and resolutions.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilwoman Garner. Any questions?
Why don't we have the manager explain that?
Go right ahead, Ms. Mayor.
I knew you wanted to do that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the opportunity here. No, just, Mayor and Council, really, just about 3 years ago, we, as the council of the city, approved to accept the exemption for CRAs on this half of 0.5 of a mil, and to go to the Children's Trust that was formed. I guess it passed the county commission in December of '02. And our CRAs, and we're not the only one, there were several CRAs that were in existence before this passed. So the cities individually made a decision whether or not to create the exemption for their CRAs that existed. With us, we wanted, as we always do, want to make sure that the county was going to follow through, and this was going to, that Homestead would receive money before we did anything in perpetuity, so to speak. So we put a three-year time frame on the exemption and bring it back in 3 years and say, okay, how much have we got now of this children's trust? The city's costs are because of the $500,000 is about $3.4 million by the city. The Children's Trust, as you see in there, has accounting of money going to programs that impact and work in the city. Some are inside the city, some are outside, but service programs inside the city and constituents inside the city. And they came to a figure of $8.2 million that the city has benefited or has come to the city. As a matter of fact, we do have a small grant in the back tonight. It's the Children's Trust grant. So that's a little bit of the background here. You're looking to now either extend it or again, in this case, extend it in perpetuity or otherwise, any time frame that you like. But that's kind of the background on any questions.
No questions.
Any comments?
Nope.
Look, are we getting a return of 3 times that we were...
That's right.
If there's no comment, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilwoman Bell, Finance Committee.
Yes, we have bid 200718, demolition of 211 Washington Avenue, tab 4.
I'll move it.
Second motion.
It's been properly moved and it's been seconded. Any comments, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Thank you.
Councilwoman Woolman,
Yes.
Management Review.
Well, Mayor, you asked that we have an update a couple weeks ago on the internal auditor position. And I've been working with staff for I don't know how many months, many months, on trying to get together a job description, trying to decide how we're going to present this. So I'm going to ask City Manager to step in here and give a report from his staff and tell us what's going on.
Well, again, in this position, we've actually used an interim internal auditor on a need basis during the absence of having a full-time. And I think that there has been discussion. We can go 2 ways, obviously, and this is council's call, but kind of as a summarizing or sub-summarizing. 2 ways we can go. We can hire a full-time auditor to do the items that are in the job description. We can also, this one phase of it, we can also put together, like we do our A&E, a group that we can choose from that would come in and do audits on an as-needed basis.
And can you just, I'll interject here. The reason that came about was that we found that so many auditors have specialties. You know, for example, an auditor to audit the police department, that's a specialty. And so on and so forth. I mean, there's been several that we've discovered. Also, we have, I think in Joanna's job description, there's some audit description in her job description as well. So I mean, I just want people to know that there have been ongoing audits as this interim of time has passed.
Well, in our beginning, when we really contemplated, as I recall, we're contemplating the auditor, much of it was not, I guess maybe a forensic audit over something that is suspected to be wrong, wasn't the driving force of why we had the auditor. I think the driving force was look at processes, look at our operations. How are we doing them? Are we following our ordinances? Do we need to change our ordinances, or do we need to change our processes? And really looking at efficiency issues, almost like an industrial engineer kind of a job, but with also the caveat that if there would need be, there are look at how we handle money and suggest how we could tighten that up, and working with finance to do that. And in the interim, not having the auditor, we put together a budget and performance office, and we've been working on trying to bring in a little more of the performance objectives, measurements against benchmarks, inputs, outputs, outcomes, trying to get that. That's a slow process. I was a little disappointed at how we moved on that as a city from our administrative side. However, I found I shouldn't be too disappointed in that, because every city I talk to, every course consultant and on performance measures we talk to say everybody has the same problem, getting in, identifying those, getting the workforce out of being able to deal and plan and look at things that way, other than dealing with things that are in their face every day and that they have to take care of. So we continue to work on that from that perspective. But so to answer that was kind of a long answer to a short question. That yes, we do have someone that a group that we put together. Well, two people, but a group put together to work on that. Again, we are suggesting too, because there was issues of what does the auditor look at and who tells the auditor what to look at. Well, this by charter is a council employee, not my employee, but a council employee. So now we have to go in, okay, who tells them what to look at? And I think we wanted to avoid one individual or each individual council person saying, I want you to look at this, and another one saying, I want you to look at that, and the other council members not really knowing or coordinating what is being looked at. So we suggest that, and other people do this, is maybe have an audit committee. Who you have on that committee, you can design it how you want. We considered having a member of council being the head of the committee, that HR have someone, because many times will end up involving personnel, and then someone from the manager's office on the committee, because a lot of times it may involve operations as well. That way, if a council member has a specific issue they want to look at, they can put that to the committee. The committee will look at it and bring it back to all the council, and everybody.
And if I could interject here too, we just found that would be the fairest thing, because the auditor, whether we have a multitude of auditors to choose from or just one auditor to choose from, that would be to us the fairest thing. And this was actually recommended through Richard Weiss, because we asked Richard to go out into the community and to see how other cities handle the situation. So, and I think it was so important that the committee then, brings it back to the council and then have a council vote. There will be. I'm sorry. There will be times when, that, and we still have to draft all this language, but if it's accepted tonight. But I think the first and foremost thing is, first of all, decide, do you want a full-time auditor? And second of all, do you want a list of auditors that you can draw upon at their expertise? So I don't know whether we should just take comments on one thing before we go into another.
Just take questions.
Vice Mayor and then Ms. Gardner.
Thank you, Ms. Walden. Kurt, I'm very uncomfortable. I guess there's no polite way to put it. An auditor whose investigative and review abilities are limited, in my opinion, is not an auditor and is not what was intended by the people who overwhelmingly approved the auditor position as a charter position. Auditors aren't here to be liked. They're not supposed to be your friend. They're not supposed to be liked. And I think an audit committee with only one public official on it, serves to hide from public view the deliberation as to where an auditor could go. We need an auditor. I was with a group of people today, and that question was at the forefront. And look, as being at the edge of banking, I know that my auditors need to be able to go wherever they legitimately feel they need to go without council or managerial or committee intervention. Unless you can show me that under certain circumstances, when something's brought to the auditor's attention or an auditor finds something that he or she feels needs to be looked at while looking at something else, you're not creating an auditor position. You're creating a yes man for the next council who may wish to rein in the scope of those duties. An auditor means go wherever you feel you need to go. That's what creates the validity and the credibility of an auditor, period. Thank you.
Mayor. Ms. Gardner and then Ms. Crowe.
I just wanted to know from the attorneys, if we have a pool that we're picking from, does that fulfill the charter requirements, or does the charter state that we need one specific person?
It would meet the requirement that's listed in the charter.
Okay, then I understand what you're talking about with specific, because we may say we want them to look at development services, and there's a person who's specifically good at that. Because I'm not just interested in finances. As Kurt said, I want to know what can we do better. We need to save money. Maybe we can have someone come in here and look at our processes and say, you're not working together the way that you should. You can save a lot of money by doing X. That was my original intent for the auditor in the first place, because we have an independent financial auditor that comes in and checks all the books anyway. To me, it was more of what can we do better within departments. So I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you. I've taken a look at this and I've read this. I think that it doesn't really matter what we think. What matters is what the voters intended. And I think that's the bottom line. And I think the voters intended, when they voted for this provision in the charter, that there would be independent oversight in the city of Homestead. And it would include exactly what Ms. Gardner said and Ms. Wadman said and what Mr. Rosner said. It would include that. And to come in, it's not just, the internal auditor is not just somebody who just comes in and crunches numbers. That's not what it's about. It's about internal controls. It's about going into a department, kind of like Mr. Albritton discovered right away that we were spending thousands of dollars too much on how we renewed the city's tags, the driver's license plates. That was an internal control, something that was a very quick fix that saved, I don't know how many thousands of dollars it saved, but it saved quite a few thousand dollars. That's what an internal auditor position does. Sometimes they stumble upon stuff and we may not like it. Sometimes they're pointed in different directions and we may not like it, but that's part of the independence of the position, and that's why he's called an independent internal auditor. I think we need to go back and take a look at the job description that's before us, and we need to take a look at that. We need to hire a full-time independent auditor. I think it's a bit precarious for that person to answer to council, as we saw what happened last time. So I think that is not perfect, but I don't think that's a perfect system, answering to council, because then it's very dependent upon that particular council. But that's why I still think that's very healthy and healthier, because it forces things to be more in the public, and so then the public gets to know what's really happening. Some things we don't like about that, and some things we do. So I can really understand why you would say the committee, because it might seem to keep things a little neater and cleaner, and I can really understand that. But I think the bottom line is not really what I think is best or what any of us, it's just what the voters intended when they voted for this charter provision. I think they want a full-time internal auditor who can really take a good look independently without anybody looking over their shoulders at each and every department, and go wherever he chooses and have whatever opened up to him, whether it's the finance department, the CRA, the manager's office, wherever. And I think that we need to maintain that provision, and I would absolutely be against anything other than that. A full-time independent auditor that's hired, that comes into the city, he has his own office, and he has the ability and the purview to go into any department he chooses, and that's exactly what I would stay with, for the only reason that that's what I believe the voters want. And I think that absolutely, that's what's absolutely in the long run, that's what's best. Thank you very much.
Mayor Warren.
It was unfortunate that we had a very bad experience with the first auditor. And I think that have kind of put a shadow on the purpose and the function of an auditor. The charter states very clearly that the auditor reports to the mayor and council.
That's right.
And I will never hire anyone without having some accountability of that auditor. I don't want him really walking around here doing whatever he wants and there's no checks and balances. He reports to the mayor and council. He gets his direction from the mayor and council. And I'm hearing that you got an auditor on board, but nobody can tell him anything to do. He don't report to anybody. He should have a free will to do as he please. Well, the manager don't have that free will. And the auditor certainly should not have that free will. That's not an auditor. I deal with them every day on my job. If you don't give them, that's the mistake we made with Ms. Albritton. He had no direction from this mayor and council. He didn't know what in the hell he was doing. We have to give him direction. That's what the charter is very clear. So you report to the mayor and council, who will give you direction, and you fulfill those responsibilities. But no, you don't hire someone and then you say, well, okay, do as you will. No, he's accountable, just like I'm accountable to the people of Homestead. He's accountable to the mayor and council. So we need to hire someone that have experience in the background to carry out the function of an auditor. Not one of us, when Mr. Albritton here, interfered in his job at all. But he was incompetent. And we got rid of her. But there are some folks out there, Mr. Winkie came here, did a remarkable job. Very objective, had a scope of service, and fulfilled his obligation in closing that audit. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to hire someone and they should do as they will. No one should have that kind of authority. You give them responsibilities, okay, and I think he spoke to each and every one of the council members, and I know he spoke with me. And I said, look, we need to improve our internal controls. You need to take a look at it. That's a directive from me as his supervisor to fulfill that responsibility. But you don't go out doing as you please. We didn't handcuff him. He brought back some findings. The manager immediately, especially in those departments, responded to them. They were corrected. So we're not trying to hide anything. I get sick of hearing that, you know, we handcuffed the auditor. We can't find things, as if there's so many wrong things going on in the city. But we have checks and balances, and he's here. He's part of that checks and balance. And I just like Ms. Waldman's recommendation that we have a listing of auditors that we can call on to come in as the mayor and council feel to look into things that specializes in different areas. But to have someone here making, probably to get someone $107,000 plus benefits, we get some folks in here on call like we do with the other professional areas, I think it would be a whole lot more beneficial. Because from my review and observation of Mr. Albritton, we did not need a full-time auditor. We wasted a whole lot of time. We're spending money and got very little out of it, to be honest with you. So I concluded we did not need a full-time, but we need someone to come on and to provide the service, but not necessarily to sit around a desk all day and do absolutely nothing. But I just don't think that we should give anyone here, and no one here in the city should have the right to come in and do as they please, with no direction from anybody. No, that's not an order. That's not his function. Can't do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair.
Well, I just thought we should always look at bringing in specialists, you know, like we do with consultants now. I mean, it's almost like a consultant. Bring them in to help us look at efficiencies and how to streamline our processes. And there is no one particular individual that can fill all those needs. And I like the concept of having a firm with definite instructions and look at, the procedural part of where we could do business better and faster and more efficient. So that's kind of the process that I was hoping to find.
Well, I can tell you that we searched the cities that have internal auditors, and this was the best that we felt. As far, do you agree, Kurt, as far as recommendation? And I think what a lot of us are forgetting is that we have a strong city manager. If there's something going on in a department, those people work for the city manager, and that's his responsibility to go in there and do his own investigation. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me on that, but that's how it is. So, yes.
Thank you. I agree with that. The buck in many instances stops with the city manager. And I agree that in terms of efficiencies, that perhaps it is appropriate to have firms of specialists, of auditors, if you will, to come in and look at specialized areas such as the police department, CRA, and those different issues to look at efficiencies. And I think the best example is the one that was brought before us with the way the city renewed its vehicle registrations. But I also feel as though, and whether it's on a part-time basis or a full-time basis, you have to have that, I want to use the expression, the gotcha factor. That if somebody's inclined to be doing something wrong and finds a hole in the system, and it happens all the time, that holes are found in the system, there needs to be that person in place in some capacity that's always looming over somebody's shoulder in their mind. You picture the angel and the devil on somebody's shoulder. Do I go through the hole? Do I do the right thing? And I think that's where there's two entirely different roles and concepts of this internal auditor. One is efficiency, and one is honesty. And I think we could even look to the housing scandal at Metro-Dade that maybe, just maybe, if there had been an auditor in place, that stream of payments might have been questioned earlier on or brought to the forefront. And that's where my concern is, not that somebody come in with no direction. I mean, clearly, we're going to have people in, whether it be an individual or firms, that come in and say, take a look at these areas for us. But it goes back to that you need to have someone, I feel, to give the public a sense of confidence in the financial dealings of the city, who can walk in unannounced and say, let me look at this contract, let's look at the checks that have been cut, give me the backup. Just like an auditor walks in and counts a bank teller's drawer, or deals with loan officers, or something along those lines, so that if, and again, it goes back to that, that chink in the armor, that hole in the system, that's where I feel we need to have somebody who has that defined ability to go in and do the surprise audit. Let me look at your finances. Give me the backup, which I think is really a small part of the overall internal auditor. I think that when the position was first conceived, maybe it was more along the lines of maybe there's some financial wrongdoing at the city, and we know in retrospect that there probably was not, or definitely was not. Mismanagement is not necessarily wrongdoing 6 years ago. So I would envision that it'd be two different capacities, somebody in-house or somebody who comes in part-time and just does those surprise reviews of books and records, versus a firm or specialized firm on a case-by-case basis who may come in and look at efficiencies and processes. That's what I mean when I say that we can't handcuff that person.
But, Vice Mayor, and I'm not here to debate you. Yeah. I'm just here to tell you the majority of the cities that we surveyed, and Mr. Weiss was the one that headed that up, as well as Marcy and Human Resources. I can tell you that the morale of employees before, and any one of you director heads can either verify this or not, but it was very low. Again, I put the burden on the manager's back that if you feel that there is something going wrong, that any council member can go to you and say, I want you to check into this. And that's your responsibility. But, you know, we just seem to have this huge problem with defining the internal auditor. James, you say that either one of these scenarios would meet the charter.
Let me mention something. You know, the Vice Mayor mentioned this housing scandal. Miami-Dade County have a huge auditing department, internal auditing department, and still they were confronted with these outrageous findings of mismanagement and lack of oversight. One person, if we have somebody full-time auditing the city, I assure you we will still find problems that need to be resolved. If you don't have good management, if you don't have good directors, with Rackland Coin coming in once a year, as the Vice Mayor talked about, making sure that everything adds up, we will have significant problems. Now, we have the external auditor coming in once a year, and I think they do an incredible job. I just read in the paper last Friday where Rackland went into the city of Miami, and I think there were 143...
In trouble.
You saw that?
Trouble.
Now, they also have an internal auditing department. Yet, they had to bring Rackland Coin in from the outside. And they found all these errors in the city of Miami's operations. So, I think what the Vice Mayor said earlier, but you can hire someone to do this job, and I don't have a problem with it. You know, I fought for it many years ago after our financial condition. But I do think that you have an auditor, and my concern would be you bring somebody and you hire somebody, whatever mayor and council hire in the future, that auditor is accountable to them. And you must make sure that that auditor fulfills his responsibility. So if you call an auditor in and you ask him questions like I did months ago and had problems, people said, well, you know, you're interfering. I was fulfilling my responsibility as the mayor of the city by asking the appropriate questions and questioning his scope of service, which I had a right to do, and also questioning the output of his work, which I had a problem with. And I think whether it's the Vice Mayor, or Councilman Bell, or Councilman Porter, Ms. Wallman, in the future, you have a responsibility. You have that check and balance responsibility. You have to call that auditor in if you have a problem with that auditor, to make sure that he is doing what you ask him to do. Not what he want to do, but what you ask him to do. Because he worked for you. And you have to give him direction. So whomever we hire, I'm saying we still have the responsibility to give him direction. If not, I'm not going to hire someone and I can't tell him what to do. I'm not going to do that. Just like I don't think the manager will hire someone and you can't tell him what to do. He reports to you. And the same thing applies here. So let's not get confused. This auditor is not someone out of heaven that, you know, he's above everybody and he's not accountable to anybody. We all are accountable to somebody. Everybody's accountable to somebody. So I just want to make sure that he fulfilled the task that is outlined here in his job description. And when he come in, that I think every elected official who he reports to should have a sit down with this person and give them their viewpoint, what some of the areas in the city they think you need to take a look at. Ms. Warman is bringing forth this audit committee. It is very common to have an audit committee of the city to work with this internal auditor. I've gotten responses to some of the bankers in the community saying, well, why not have an audit committee? Even someone, a representative from the public to sit on this audit committee that have the background experience. We have some CPAs out there in the community that can be part of this committee. We can arrange it any way we want, just to try and insulate it from political interference. But ultimately, even with the audit committee, ultimately the buck stopped right here. But that's a concept that a lot of cities are using right now. City of Miami have an audit committee. But at the end of the day, city manager and his management team is ultimately responsible for what happens on a day-to-day basis. So I like the audit committee concept. I just think we probably need to look at having someone from the public to sit on that committee. Probably a local CPA or someone to help inform the mayor and council on what we need to look at more intensely. But the accountability must be there.
Well, and again, these, Marlene, I believe you told me today that Richard still had some more research to do. So what I would recommend to the council is let him bring us back the material, the rest of the material, the rest of the story, because there were some other cities, I think, in Broward County that he was still, was it Broward or Palm Beach? Broward, that we were still waiting to hear from. And that way we can have that information. And all of my fellow council, you made very good points, very good points. And I think that we all need to just try to work together and try to solve the problem. I do think that the outside sourcing for example, if you have procurements, for procedure audits in certain departments, I mean, these are very specialized audits. I'm sorry, did you?
No, I didn't know.
He was looking at
I know the chairs got empty.
But, I mean, this is just my personal feeling that we should wait and see what else Richard brings back. No offense, James, but is the television going to come on again? But that would be my personal recommendation, so I don't know how the rest of you feel.
Yeah, and I think that's a personal idea. I'd like to get the full picture.
Me too.
I want to make sure I heard you correctly. And I guess we've been without an auditor since January. Is that?
December.
I knew it was somewhere around the holidays.
November, December, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Are you saying that it's taken this long to compile the information that the other communities are doing?
Marcy, I'm going to have to call on you for that. I mean, I know you said it was taking a lot of time to get information back. We called in the attorneys. Does anybody have a comment? Kurt?
Well, I think after the last one, we had a fairly lengthy cooling off period, if I can call it that, and kind of where are we going to go next? That really hadn't developed yet. I think everybody gave it some time to where it could be addressed.
And we don't want any more time to go by.
Yeah.
We want to move forward with this.
Well, I wanted to bring something out. It's not exactly, not even exactly is the right word. It's not what you want, but we still are. When we are finding issues, we'll bring our own auditor in. We've got one coming up for procurement, and it happens to be through the organization of procurement. I don't remember your organization, NIGP, but it's a governmental purchasing group that they do audits, and they have that expertise, so they don't have to get up to speed too much on what should be being done. So we're going to have them. We're getting a proposal for them to come in and actually do our procurement procedures and processes there and audit that. So we do that. We do, when we find out things, our own investigations as well. we development services, we did that one.
And see, the public, you're not made aware of a lot of the internal things that go on. I mean, the manager's office handles many investigations.
Absolutely.
And consequently, many, there are consequences that have to be paid. So, I don't know what that fine line is. Where is that fine line where, there's privacy issues. You have to keep some things in-house.
Well, and if you're doing an investigation, you don't go public saying we're going to investigate something that's, wear red coats and march in a straight line, tell them you're coming. You got to get behind the scene and see what's going on a little covertly first to verify and to look at what's going on. And, we get involved in that as well. Sometimes we have the PD involved.
And the last thing I want to say is that the last search, I don't even remember how many months it was, but Marcy, I know it was over a year.
Yeah.
And the applications that we got in were so few, and they were not qualified. So I like the idea of the outside, but I still think we need to address the problems. And again, I'm pointing my finger at the manager. But and maybe Kurt, what you could do is, because I happened to find out about the last little incident through somebody else. Maybe what you could do is, when you're doing something like that, brief the council, let them know what you're doing, so that they know that you're working. And
of course, we kid ourselves about trying to keep some secrecy to aid the investigation to a successful end. So we don't.
But as soon as it's done, go to the council. Let the council know.
This place is better than CNN. It's hard to keep secret.
Anything's better than CNN.
Okay.
Okay.
But yes, and
sometimes I feel like I'm the last to know.
I don't know what we're talking about.
And, that probably.
You will tomorrow.
Probably could be more attention paid to that.
Yes.
At the end of the day, but
I have no clue.
a lot of times the difference is we're not actively out there looking at everything because everybody's doing their jobs. But when we get wind of it, or we trip across it, or whatever happens, we like to think it's our expertise, but sometimes we trip across it accidentally, but we do take care of it. We do look into a lot of those issues which don't get necessarily highlighted, but they're taken care of, and people are gone, or things are done, whatever needs to be done to correct it.
Let me ask you, Madam Chair, Mr. Minky was not interested in some kind of arrangement with the city?
Yeah, he was. I initially contacted him, and we were going to do something, but I liked the idea that what the organization does.
No, I'm not talking about for you. I'm talking about that from the council level.
He was interested. Scott Minky was interested in being on this. He wasn't interested in being the one auditor.
I don't blame him.
But he was interested in being on a list to come in and do on a job basis.
Oh, okay.
To come in and do it. Correct me if I'm...
I know he works for many different cities.
Well, see, Scott's in Boca Raton.
Far.
And I know when we were doing this one, he got in and did it, spent a lot of time, but it was awkward for him because these guys are used to coming in, they use the office here, and they may stay till 10 or 11, 12 o'clock going through because they need to get it done. And then anybody around for him.
But we have some local auditors, I know, that are doing pension work for us, auditing some of our pension plan that, we don't have to look too far. We got Jim Pierce and others that may come in and they don't do municipal audits.
No, we have the pension board now has Caballero and Castellano.
Okay.
They're doing most of the audits. Not any local audits. The local CPA companies that do audits.
Interesting.
Yeah, and and that was one of the issues when we had the full-time. We didn't have, I don't know if we can give away trade secrets here, but we didn't have a big response. There were two people. One of them had a conviction for cocaine. There's Mr. Albritton, and this is after a long search. And
I know. I went through every application.
For some reason, we just didn't attract anyone to do that. We may have a better luck doing the ones you can call in. You may have a better luck to give me a job basis. I'll come.
Most of them in their own private practice, or they're connected with an organization. They've been with a long time, making a lot of money. They're not going to leave.
But Mayor Warren, I think it's important for all of you to know is that the list of auditors that we would be pulling from are auditors that our neighboring cities use as well, and firms, yes. You know, and there are no local, there weren't any that I saw, but they're not qualified, so that's why they're not on the list.
Well, larger cities are able to pay the kind of bucks that a guy says, hey, I'll do this, and that's my job. You know, for us to reach that, we...
Well, why don't we do this, because the time is going here. We'll do what we said. We'll have Richard bring back, and Marcy and Marlene work together and bring back the entire package, and then we'll bring it back up. I hate to say it, but probably committee or whole meeting again. And the very next one, so let's bring it up at the very next committee to whole meeting.
Could I ask this, if you would be interested in us going to put out information or an inquiry as to people who may be interested in being on an audit list to do job basis at this point, or would you rather me wait?
I think we have a list, don't we, Marcy, of auditors from other cities? I know Richard had said that they could provide a list. Well, why don't we, if it's all right with everybody, then let's go ahead and move forward to start gathering names and firms and their credentials.
Okay.
So, Mayor, I guess I'm done.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Item 5 is the Department of Corrections Work Squad, number 417 in resolution, tab 6.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a renewal of our contract with Department of Corrections. It's a sole source contract. I don't know any business right now. I don't even think Wackenhut has anybody around here that's going to give us inmates, but has sources and resources to inmates. But this is for one work squad. It's for the parks. It's one supervisor, 5 inmates, plus a vehicle. We actually get a couple of work squads out of this. It's a good deal for $55,777. That's what we're doing. We pay for the guard is basically what we do. They pay that salary for the guard that's with them at all times from corrections. But the manpower is,
Just one comment, Mayor.
Is there a motion, Ms. Woolman?
Well, since you're chairing, I'll make the motion. I just want to say one thing, and that is we couldn't survive without these guys. I mean, we really couldn't. And they're very polite and, you know, I mean, I've had conversations with them, and would you agree, Kirk? I mean, they're just the nicest. I mean, they're
happy to be out.
They're happy to be out, yes. But we could not survive because they do a good amount of work. Trust me, they put in a full day.
And the police department has a different squad that they use and work.
So I'll make the motion.
Moved by Councilwoman Woolman. Is there a second? Is there a second, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Second by the Vice Mayor. Any other comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6A is the Office of Justice Prevention and Resolution, tab 7.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second by the Vice Mayor. $200,000 grant from the Office of Justice. No further comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Tab 8 is
I'll move it, Mayor.
a $72,000 grant, Police Department again, moved by Councilwoman Bowman. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Bell. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Tab 9 is a $5,000 grant, Police Department from the Children's Trust, Seatbelt Safety Initiative.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell, second by Councilwoman Woolman. Any questions on this grant? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And lastly is item 6D, the mutual aid agreement, the City of Punta Gorda Police Department Resolution, tab 10. The motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell, second by Councilwoman Woolman. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Like tempting fate, aren't you, this time of year?
We just want to make sure everything's in there.
Ms. Bell, anything for the committee of the whole?
No, sir. One quick thing. I went to the welcome home ceremony last night at Homestead Air Force Base around 10 o'clock for our soldiers that were returning from Iraq, and it was just beautiful. So very, very heart-rendering, but it was beautiful. That's it.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
None, thank you.
Ms. Wallman?
No, sir.
Mr. Manager?
I have one item. It involves the Bowen Alley property. We have not renewed the lease for the company that was their curb lease. That has been an issue for us for a little while now. We've tried to work with them and just could not get a satisfactory result. So when the lease ended, we did not renew that. There was some disgruntlement on the part of Purbley's in regards to that, and they were going to make us go to court and do an eviction to get them out of there. In the meantime, their insurance had run out. They owed us about 2 months back rent, and among the other complaints that were being generated there. So to get this thing done and get them out of there, I went forward and agreed that we would not go after the last 2 months' rent, and if they would vacate in 24 hours, which they did. And I just made that deal because, you know, we could have gone on for weeks to get them out of there, and each weekend could be a liability situation for us. So I went on and did that, and I want to report that kind of like on an emergency basis. A little different from a purchase, but...
Was that put in writing to that gentleman? Because they keep calling me about it, and I keep referring them to you and the chief, sir.
And I'm not talking to the individual. I'm not returning his calls. And the reason is that, one, that's a promoter. He does not have the lease. And the reason we get all the calls from the media on it and was the inferences that were being made, and that was the gentleman, and I don't want to get into any kind of a conversation. We told him to call our attorneys. So right now we have possession of that place, and that's done, closed up.
Very good. Very good. Mr. Attorney, any business this evening?
Yes.
Well, thank you all so very much for coming. Meeting is adjourned.